Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy
Good
Tuesday.
morning.
Good morning. My name is Anile Ndlovu, and I am going to be the facilitator for this morning's session under the theme Be Seen, Be Loved, Community and Social Engagement. Thank you so much to Proudly South African for hosting us, for having us, and for having this very important dialogue. We've got a great lineup of speakers who are going to share what they view of being seen, being loved, and what community and social engagement means to them. When I was invited to be the facilitator today and I saw the theme, it made me actually think of Ubuntu and South Africa's Batupila, that everything is around community, everything is around working together. And I'm sure we're going to hear from our speakers that without community, without social engagement, their businesses wouldn't be as successful as they are because we need people. We need each other. You might be the business owner, but you need people who work for you, you need people who work with you, and mostly we need customers. So this theme is around that. It's around being seen within your organization, but also being seen by those that you service, those that you serve, who are your audience, who are your customers, potential customers, current customers, old customers. It's all about that community and that ecosystem of community and of how you engage with your community. We have three speakers who I'm excited to hear from and to hear their views on what is it that community means to them? What is it that social engagement means to them? What does being seen and being loved mean to them? And how does Ubuntu feature in their businesses? And how is it that they've been able to take that from the time they started up until now, continuing to be business people? Usually, for those who have joined us before in our Proudly South African webinars, we usually start with who Proudly South African is, what Proudly South African is all about, what the mandate is. Today, we're going to do things just a little bit differently, and we'll have that engagement at the end after our speakers, so that you can just get a better understanding if this is your first time with us on who we are and what it is that we are all about. But let us move on to our first speaker, Usifiso Moyo. Spiso is a township economy expert. I must say, I had no idea we had such. I know we have township entrepreneurs, but township economy experts, this is the first time that I've heard about it. We learn something new every day. And he is the founder of Brand Township. And I think he's the perfect person to speak on the topic built in the township, how hyper-local solutions earn trust and loyalty. Fiso, over to you. Looking forward to what you will share with us on the township economy.
Thank you so much, Anele. And thank you to everyone that is logged in to join the webinar today. I think I don't really have a kind of a structured presentation around this subject matter. I think for me, the emphasis around, my title being a township expert, and I think what qualifies me there, it's a number of research papers that I've been able to publish over time. And these research papers have basically gained traction in the market, primarily about, being able to generate key insights and build a better understanding around, the insiders' insights. Because normally most of these, available research studies, what I've noticed most of the time is that, external individuals happen to, put them together and be able to analyze the township, from the perspective of an outsider. So I think it's quite critical to also have lived experiences around the township and seen its evolution in terms of business and its economy. Hence, I have kind of dubbed myself as a township economy expert. But that does not mean that I know everything about the township. It's just that I have an understanding on how basically we could better understand the economy, the environment, and the business models that thrives within that environment. So I'll talk about hyperlocal. And I think when we talk about that subject, we have to always look at trust, because hyperlocal, it's mainly marketing that stems from community and how businesses that have established themselves within those communities are able to thrive in that environment. So I think what we need to take away from that is the fact that it is built on trust, and it is also built on how familiar you are with the community. So business people that have opened up such enterprises, they actually are from those neighborhoods. So there is some kind of loyalty that they gain over time. They're quite familiar with those environments from a cultural perspective. And there's also shared identity, because they've emerged from, they've inspired many within communities. People have seen them emerging, starting a business with a small container and then building it up over time. And the best examples that I can think about or that I can talk about will be, Sakumzi restaurant. We can also talk about Busy Corner, Mamrita. And when you look at those business case specifically, you would realize that for them to pivot and be where they are today, they had built themselves around community. What do I mean about that? They have hosted stock fairs, societies within their own, environments and restaurants. They've also been part of community stock fairs or community initiatives or interventions. They've been serving as community leaders in their own respective right. And through that and over time, they have actually been able to build some kind of a solid base and a solid identity within their own, communities. They also do a lot of community work, whether it's through giving away, school shoes or assisting some of the learners who might probably within single, child-headed household. They will sometimes assist with, burials of family members where families, they don't really have, someone to rely on, and they will contribute as best as they can. So they've become community heroes, and hence, word spread quite quickly in how they are contributing within their own communities. And by virtue of that, the very same communities become their own mouthpiece, become their word of mouth to other community members. And hence, they are able to build a strong brand over time. So trust is built through proximity with the hyperlocal businesses that exist within those environments. There's familiarity in terms of lived experiences. They actually succeed because they are purely invested in communities and they are embedded in those communities. And they've also become community institutions, and they have become also a mouthpiece and also guys that bring solution within communities. And that over time builds, credibility in the market. We have Sakumzi, as I've spoken about Sakumzi. We've had, new players like Gua Ace, who's also been kind of thriving in the hospitality sector. And they have a strong hold of amplifying an immediate economy. And they also, are trading with local other businesses. I'll talk about Sakumzi again and refer back to him, because he's also stocking some of the input products like Last Drop Juice, which is based in Soweto. And basically also stock some of the vegetables, some of the input products for his ingredients from the locals. And they trust him and they want to go and do business with him. And when they think of anything else in terms of support, in terms of trying to start a business, they also become the mentors of communities and other emerging business individuals. And that is how, they continue to drive those activities within the very same communities which they operate in. I'm not sure whether am I still audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
you are.
All right. I'm just confirming. So that's where they are. But I think what is quite important, even within that, is how we then help the very same enterprises or the very same brands, because over time they've built themselves as formidable brands, and they might not be aware that that's their current status and how they build themselves in the market. Because once you are in everyone's lips, you have built yourself as a formidable brand. And they become, as I've said, community institution, but more than anything, they become township IPs because they bring in a unique value proposition in the market outside of their community engagement, but the product and the service that they're offering into the market. I'll go back to the two examples that I've made, and I will also talk about Moja Chicken. So these brands, they strategically place themselves either in high transit areas or high traffic areas or in destination environments like precincts or enterprise zones. And as such, it's spaces like Vilakazi Street. And the credibility that they and the momentum that they've built over time makes them strong township IPs. And what do I mean about township IPs is that outside of a normal conventional structure, probably of a franchise model where you could potentially scale using capital from either banks or financial institution, but you need to have solid system for you to scale. The very same businesses without those systems, and as they are building and bolstering those systems, they actually scale themselves up. So their success see them scaling from one township to another, even becoming brands that are exportable to other environments, meaning they can exist outside of township environments because they've built a strong brand. And we have seen Sakumzi, he now has about 3 outlets. He has his own beer, he has his own condiments product that is either he's retailing it through his own outlets or he's getting retail partners to actually, take up the product. And that's how they potentially scale. They also scale by diversifying to other sectors, but with brand scaling, they've built familiarity and they still want to, exist within other environments. And why am I talking about Sakums is because he has a strong strategy to build himself within precinct environment that exists within townships. And that is the strategy that they are using the same principle of community-led approach, building themselves in terms of trust within communities, and that narrative, they carry it, as they scale. Moja Chicken, they use a lot of containerized solution. I mean, within Soweto, where we have about 45 townships there, what they have done, they've scaled to more than 6 townships, including Gua Ace, that sells pork and any pork products. They've scaled to almost about 3 townships within Soweto. And some of them, they scale outside of that environment, but their chances of succeeding within those environments, because there's familiarity, they are quite high. So they will scale into a township like Soweto and find themselves existing in other townships within Soweto. And with that, even though they might not have system, but they have built a strong value chain and they are able to kind of have an ability to scale. And some of them, how they scale, it is through community-led initiatives like Stokvel, where they are part of a Stokvel, they will aggregate funding from their Stokvel peers, and they will scale using that. And the reason why they are doing it is because, formalizing and the processes that take a bit of time for them to be packaged as franchises and be linked with financial institutions for them is something that takes a bit of time. But they have means, they have way, they've built enough credibility in the market for them to be able to scale themselves up. And they are doing it through community modalities that they've created, the trust that they've built over time, and also, how they are able to scale is that, pensioners or individuals that decide to take up, their pension funds and, are taking, are moving away from a normal working environment. Those are also individuals that actually begin to come to them and try to invest and say to them, I'm looking for this operation. Are you willing and would you allow me to be able to scale this brand up collectively with you? And through that, they are able to actually be able to strengthen their value chain, and they are beginning to also invest in the value chain. So most of these restaurants that are thriving in communities, you would notice that they are also investing in the value chain. They are also owning farms that are supplying chicken. They are owning vegetable farms that are supplying inputs product. And that has been what has been phenomenal in the growth of these enterprises. So for me, I think looking at this subject matter and also what Proudly South African continuously do in support of local and buying local, and I think there should be some kind of a targeted and intentional approach for Proudly South African to begin to identify such successes and such enterprises that continuously thrive in these communities, because most of them, they are not even members of Proudly South African. I don't think also that they have an understanding nor an ink of the benefits that they will potentially get by being members of Proudly South African. So that on its own, create an opportunity for Proudly South African to probably partner with Brand Township, because what we do as Brand Township, it's primarily that it's positioning ourselves like, Proudly South African or brand SA, where we look at various township IPs that have an opportunity to be exported to other markets, even other townships outside of their immediate township, and help them to scale. More than anything, help them to formalize themselves in terms of franchise opportunities and help them to build systems within their own business. But more than anything else, create a platform for them to thrive. So the brand is still on its initial phases, and its intention is to continuously package good townships and package, townships from a perspective of making sure that we are able to sell spaces that, allow or permit investment to take place. And then also we can't take away what digital and the fact that we are living in the digital age. And there is a strong collaboration of these brands with micro influencers that exist within various townships and locations. And we are seeing that currently with BYD Soweto, that has just launched themselves in Soweto as a big brand. Yes, it's not a local brand, but it has its own operation, and it's one of the flagship dealers in Soweto. And what they've been doing, they have actually been partnering with both local and successful businesses, but also local micro influencers to be able to drive traffic, to be able to create, brand awareness, and to also be able to create awareness about the product into the market. So there is room for micro influencers, because they are there to drive growth. And you could see most of these videos popping up in TikTok, popping up in WhatsApp status or in groups, where micro influencers are beginning to get into those spaces and begin to drive traffic and leverage on their own followers to drive demand of products. So there is that strong connection of hyperlocal brands and businesses and community institutions partnering with micro influencers so that they can begin to drive social media storytelling about their visit, build organic cultural marketing linked to products, linked to the environment, because people buy with their eyes, and also they are legitimized by a community. So there is some sense of familiarity between them and the communities that they are trying to talk to. And for them, it's a win-win situation. If they are associated with the big brand like WA's or Sakumzi, they gain followers, they are able to earn from those activities. And if I'm taking it a step further, for me, I think there is an opportunity for the formal and the informal to exist or coexist in the very same environment. And when I talk about informal, I'm talking about township businesses because they don't have much of systems. Yes, they might be registered as operational businesses legally through the CIPC, but because of lack of system, they still fall under a category of being informal. And for me, when I say there is an opportunity, I'm thinking of an idea like WAACE, which sells anything that has to do with pork. And I see Estcourt as it emerge with a customer direct approach or retail model, where it starts to sell directly to its customers by setting up its own retail outlets. And with those partners, we have to start thinking about how do we begin to partner with them in such a way that they don't just only exist. They exist to serve the market, but they also exist to be part of the community. And how does that look like? If you go to every Estcourt store, you realize that there is a small kitchen that they have, which they serve either their own rib burgers and all those items. They might have an opportunity to incubate a familiar brand like WAACE inside an Estcourt. Strengthening that relationship, creating a strong community bond to say, the big corporates are not here to only, take advantage of the market, but they are also here to invest. And here they are empowering one of our own. And for me, those are strategic kind of relationship between a big business and formal business with an informal business, where each can live.
So I don't know if it's just on my side or has Fiso frozen?
I think Sifiso's frozen.
Okay. Let's just give him a few seconds to see if he'll come back. If not, I think we will have to move on. I am mindful of time. I know we did start a bit late, but I don't want us to fall too behind on time. Okay. I think I'm just going to continue. And I think maybe we
Sorry
can.
about that. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
here you are.
I just had a network glitch. Sorry about that. But in closing, I was
Can we give you just a few more minutes? So I'm just mindful of time. I know we just start late. Maybe 2 more minutes.
Yeah, 1 minute. Good? I'm closing.
Okay.
All I'm saying was that, there is we have to start acknowledging, the innovation that continuously comes from the township. And that innovation is entrenched around community and community trust, and brands have been built around that. And for me, I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn. And the last part that I want to talk about is the taxi industry, for example. And I've seen something, quite interesting when I was in the airport the other time with priority boarding. And I realized that the priority boarding concept has actually been long available within, and it has been implemented within the taxi industry by various taxi associations. And that, we've seen individuals paying, some monthly subscription of a membership to hold a card, where when you go to a line, if there's a huge line, maybe you want to take a taxi in the morning or in the afternoon, the guys that has cards, they go into, priority boarding and they get there first, online. And those systems, we haven't really been paying any mind with them. but they are also entrenched and they are driven by community, because it is only when you listen to your customers and understand what your community want where you are able to build such innovations. And those innovations are things that mainly business organization within townships or institutions or associations, sometimes they take them for granted. And we see them get borrowed by other industries, including, township IPs, where, a heritage restaurant like Sakhumzi, has now found acceptance even in urban commercial environments, in various spaces. So it means that, the formula works. Community is at the heart of any success of a township business, and relationships, and people buy into a persona, and once they connect with that persona and there's some kind of resonance, they are able to actually become loyal and be able to drive growth for those enterprises. With that said, let me leave it here. But yeah, let me thank you for affording me the opportunity to open up this webinar session with Proudly SA. If there are any questions, I'm all yours.
Thank you so much, Siso. Thank you. That was really, really great. And I can see why you are called the township economy expert. I just have a few kind of notes that I picked up from you. We will have a Q&A session a bit later on where I will ask 2 or 3 questions. But what I picked up from what you shared is, lived experiences are important in understanding the economy that you're in, the environment that you're in, and the audience that you're going to serve. Be familiar with your community, have a shared identity and values, be part of community initiatives to gain trust and loyalty amongst customers and the community at large. And then when you are seen as a community hero, your community will be your public relations and your brand ambassadors. And what you also just in closing said is listen to your customers, know what your customers want and need, and then leverage on your community. And community is at the heart of any township business and its success. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. We will see you a bit later when we have our Q&A session. All right. Thank you. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, Deon Kerr. She is the CEO of Siaka Consulting, and her topic that she's going to discuss is From Presence to Partnership, Turning Community Engagement into Shared Value. And Deon does have a presentation to share, so I will hand over to her. And as our guest, please do write down your questions. You can write them in the chat, or you can just keep them. And when the time comes when all our speakers have spoken, we will open up the questions where we can then engage more from what our guests have shared with us today. Deon, over to you.
Thanks very much, Anele, and thank you for having me today. Very pleased to be here celebrating what it means to be proudly South African. And in our topic, which is From Presence to Partnership, Turning Community Engagement into Shared Value, there's so much that we can talk about, but hopefully what we'll engage on very much is around the shift in mindset that we all need to make and take in order for us to be a part of South Africa's solution at each level. So thank you. So our community work in South Africa, if we can go to the next slide, spans 28 years this year. We started in 1998, and we've had the privilege of working across South Africa in being a part of the solution, hopefully, in many of the community solutions. What always fascinates me is when we talk about including our broader communities, our informal economy, in driving a South African agenda, how those solutions are typically designed around boardroom tables. And our experience is that there are no two communities alike, that you very much have to be on the ground and doing the research and engaging on a door-to-door basis with business owners to really grasp and understand what the challenges are in each particular community or environment. And they're different. So We find that in communities where the level of education is quite high, particularly around more build-up areas or mining areas, that the interest in entrepreneurship is very high. But when we move into more rural areas where the access to education is not as high, then we find that the interest in entrepreneurship is very low, with most participants, more than 85%, saying that they would prefer to find a formal job for stability than to drive entrepreneurship. So in the midst of all of this community understanding and research, there are a couple of projects which we've had the opportunity and privilege to roll out, which I think might be able to help you to understand what our findings have been and what's important in engaging to create a shared value in that environment. Thank you. The first project I'd like to talk about is called Spaza Connect. One of the challenges that we encountered was that children were dying from contaminated food in South Africa. And so we wanted to be a part of that solution. And with a memorandum of agreement with SALGA, the South African Local Government Association, we started to work in municipalities to see whether we could register spaza shops and informal food establishments in townships so that we would be able to make sure that they followed the health and safety standards, that they were registered for compliance, and that we could try and ensure that there was some level of quality of the foodstuffs sold in their shelves. At that stage, it was very apparent that people thought that the food that was being sold in spaza shops and informal establishments in townships was contaminated, that the food itself was contaminated. And the allegation was that this was because certain spaza shops were selling counterfeit products and products that were not real. Two interesting observations that we made, and the highlights on the right-hand side are from one particular township where we extracted data. So it doesn't show the whole project, but shows one particular area, that the resistance to spaza shops historically being registered was the cost of doing so. And this is really important when we start to look at what are the negative implications and the positive opportunities if we're to create shared value in a proudly South African way. So when we started to do our research and we got on the ground, we appointed what we called youth connectors. We trained them in how to do health and safety audits across the spazas. More importantly, in a shared value approach, they were capacitated to train spaza owners on how to achieve the health and safety objectives that we needed to see in order to ensure that we could provide for food safety. Of the 300 plus spaza shops in this particular area, only 53 of them registered. The balance did not register, and their reason for not registering was because of the cost of registration. So the word spaza, I'm sure most of you know, and in the room means hidden. And so the concept of a spaza shop was founded during the apartheid regime, where domestic workers specifically who had households and homes to take care of only left their job or employment in the suburbs at 5 o'clock at night if they were lucky. They then caught taxis or the informal transport system to get home, and a pass system obviously then restricted them from being able to walk on the streets and go to retail stores like normal mothers would, or mothers of different race groups at that time. And so spazas were usually a back room of somebody's house. They were hidden from sight so that people could still provide for their families despite the draconian laws that existed at that stage. So the very notion of a spaza having emergency evacuation and fire extinguishers and double entrances and massive refrigeration, that's kind of misguided. It assumes that these are proper retail outlets, and some today are, and they've expanded to become very well-established formal retail outlets. But for the most part, the informal food establishments keep our township economy really growing and thriving, and they don't meet the basic regulatory requirements. And those requirements come at significant cost. Thank you. So while we were developing these youth skills, we also discovered some interesting findings. Most spaza shops do not earn enough to be able to afford expensive compliance. Around 30% of the spazas that we surveyed report a profit. More than 80% do not make a profit, some breaking even and some running at quite significant losses. There's a few reasons for that, but mostly those reasons are because what we're doing is we're buying product at what is essentially retail prices, and then we're selling it. Because the volumes in each spaza are so small, they don't get the benefits of bulk buying and bulk pricing and wholesale pricing. So the margins in those spazas is not enough for them to show profit and for them to grow consistently. And so this talks to the opportunity that exists for spazas to come together and buy collectively, to create a marketplace, and buy collectively gives them the power of procurement and bulk purchasing, and that brings down their input costs. And so we use the terms funding and finance interchangeably. This is not a funding challenge. This is actually a finance challenge where our pricing is too high, and that means we can't make enough money out of each item until we collectively buy together and learn to collaborate around shared value as an approach. We're not going to be able to see the right margins in the spaza environment. The other issue that hit us quite hard was that SEDFA provided a beautiful program which is intended to support spaza shops in the construction upgrades that they needed for health and safety, in formalizing their establishments, in being able to move out of these hidden, small, apologetic structures into more formal structures. The problem again being that the regulation provides that they must be registered, that they must have profits, that they must have good financials, that they must be more formalized as businesses. Again, this comes at a cost. So here we sit in an environment where we're trying to help from a funding perspective. Government regulation is trying to help to make sure that we don't lose our precious children through food safety. But in actual fact, the system is structured in such a way that we can't reach each other because we're designing solutions around those boardroom tables instead of in the community and with the community in order to achieve results. So thank you. So what did we discover from the food safety perspective of working with informal establishments? If we go to the next slide, what we discovered is very interestingly that the issue of food safety is not in fact food safety at all, but rather an issue of waste management and water. So we were not selling contaminated goods, very importantly, but the immediate response was, let's stop selling South African manufactured snack foods because the problem must be there. Because the big registered corporate FMCG brands couldn't possibly sell contaminated goods. The problem must be in the South African snack foods. Why do we always assume the worst of ourselves instead of being proudly South African? So the local snack food market immediately lost a huge amount of market share, and huge amount of jobs were shed because the assumption was that it was their food. It wasn't. The reality is that poisons that are stored in a spaza shop are stored next to dry foods. So your biscuits, your rice, your mealie meal, etc., was stored next to poisons, and those poisons leach into the dry foods. The reason then we looked at is, why do we stock so much poison? And we stock so much poison because we've got water issues. Around 49% of our water is lost due to water leaks. And that talks to hygiene, both in the home and in these food establishments. And the second is that waste removal is not consistent. And so with waste removal being so erratic, households stored and used a lot of rat poison. And so this leaching of products actually came back to our water and waste issue and had nothing to do with a food quality issue. It had nothing to do with unsafe environments necessarily in that spaza environment. And so what do we need to do in order to solve this solution? It requires a shared value approach. We've got to get to the root of the problem and the opportunity that this provides as South African entrepreneurs, as proudly South African entrepreneurs, to develop solutions that are uniquely South African. This is not about adjusting what food we sell. This is not about limiting what food we sell. This is not about imposing penalties on the environment, but in actual fact, coming together to find solutions that has a shared value approach that is proudly South African, because only South Africans and those of us living in South Africa can solve South Africa's solutions. So what did we do? We've developed a solution and we use a model called the Siaka Diversity Quadrant in all of our projects, where we're tracking waste, water, and business sustainability from a baseline to see how many jobs that we can create as a result of the solutions that are being delivered within these environments. We're rolling out food safety and awareness, both for community members, for food establishment owners. The feedback from those food establishment owners was initially very, very difficult because they didn't trust us. And now we're a year into this process with people starting to trust us, that we're there with the right intention. At the same time, we're delivering business skills training to those establishment owners, and we're delivering financial literacy education, both to community members through some of the schools in the area, but most importantly to those business owners, so that we can start to get their input pricing right, so that we can get their order systems correct, so that we can work within the ecosystem that is there in order for them to be more profitable. We're retaining our youth connectors into the future to be positive supports and advocates for health and safety and business development. And this is really important because the municipalities are around 4,000 health and safety officers short in our municipal infrastructure, according to the SALGA reports. So we can provide real solutions in youth jobs by making sure that they're on the ground, teaching the informal food establishments on how to make sure that they are addressing the HACCP accreditation or health and safety standards from a food perspective. And then working with these establishments to create better margins means that we will be able to collaborate with SEDFA in actual fact to provide building and infrastructure upgrades. And so over time, this model will grow in order for these businesses to become more formal, but not formal. They are there to serve the informal market. And so the idea is that they will grow, they will achieve sustainability, we will improve their margins, we will create youth jobs and awareness from a health and safety perspective. And that co-located businesses and these spaza shops will provide all food establishments a critical role in us being able to address water and waste. How do we do that? We've been developing waste solutions in partnership with ZWASA, which is the Zero Waste Association of South Africa, which allows us to create entrepreneurs from the waste ecosystem. If we can collect waste and turn it into income generation, then we're not so fussed on whether the municipality can or can't provide. While they have every intention to improve waste collection services, we're not going to wait for government. We're going to take control as communities to ensure that we can provide for our families. And our rule is every person, every household, every family is in a position to be a part of that solution once we apply that diversity quadrant. In terms of water leaks, working with the colleges to be able to provide sponsored learnerships through the YES program or other initiatives so that we can develop youth skills in developing plumbers. And that creates either jobs or it creates entrepreneurship opportunities for youth in the area, but most certainly it means we can also localize the support that's provided within each community and each municipality. So that's a brief snapshot of Spaza Connect. We've been a year at it. We've just released the latest reports to SALGA on all of the stats on what we're doing across selected municipalities. And this year we hope to expand into more communities so that we can make the impact higher. The next project, which is much quicker, which I would like to give you as an example, which is the next slide, is the Ndebele people. In Mpumalanga, the KwaNdebele is one of the largest traditional authorities in South Africa. And what we did in working with people, where we were looking at youth unemployment. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Hi, Dion.
Hi.
Yes, I was going to ask if you can just give them a moment because you were carrying on and the slide wasn't on, but I see it on now. Thank you.
No problem. So the Ndebele people, we started working on the ground doing our research around the issues. And in each community, it's different. But again, using our philosophy that it's important we take our control back. what is it that I can do, and the opportunities that are created through my circumstance in my environment for growth, scale, and shared value. So what we realized was that people, a big part of the Ndebele culture, of course, which is the same as many other cultures in South Africa, but a big part is the traditional blankets and the beaded items that the Ndebele people are so proud of in their historic colors. What we realized was that these blankets are bought in Pretoria at the local market. They're fully imported from China, and the beads are fully imported at the same time. And so we sat down with the Queen and with some of the community members, and we said, let's develop a solution where we can take back control and we can create a proudly South African solution that really does celebrate the Ndebele heritage and culture in a way that there is shared value. Thank you. And so what did we do? We said, first of all, how do we make sure that we can use South African manufactured blankets? It took us a while. We found a textile manufacturer in Johannesburg who produces an Ndebele blanket. They met and looked at the colors, the texture, the importance from a cultural perspective of what those blankets look like, and they are able to manufacture the blankets for us locally. Then what we did was we started to look at volumes and pricing, so that if we can achieve the right level of volumes, we can buy those blankets much cheaper than what we can at the market. This is difficult because we know that China manufactures in such large quantities that often their prices are very low. But we were adamant that we would be able to provide a South African solution. We managed to bring the cost of those blankets down by around 50%. And so what we then do is we're still currently sourcing the beads from the local retailers at this point, because the beads are not yet manufactured in South Africa. And we're beading those blankets and selling them at a household level for traditional ceremonies, from a family perspective, and working with the traditional authority in order to take orders and make sure that we are able to deliver those projects. There are about 3,000 women in total who do the beadwork and the beading on the various blankets. And what we're hoping to do is make sure that this incredible beading culture and skill is passed down through generations over a period of time. But over and above that, we knew that localization doesn't stop there. So what we're doing at the moment is we are testing the crushing of plastic bottle caps and glass in order to manufacture South African beads. And we are talking to several of the textile farmers and the farmers that are farming in cotton and other textiles, in order that we can increase the local content percentage of these blankets over time. This is a long-term project which over time will become more and more and more local. But very importantly, we're not buying Ndebele culture from another country anymore. We are proudly using South African product and creating South African jobs and making sure that the value chain remains in South Africa in order to create a shared value approach to both community development and to South Africa's economy over a period of time. Thank you. And so ultimately, where does that Siaka diversity quadrant sit above it? The heritage, literature, and cultural commentary is being created alongside this project. The idea is that we are going to link with these South African tourism sector, and we do a lot of work in the sector, so that tourists to South Africa can actually pre-order their blankets and Ndebele beaded items online, and that will be delivered to their lodge or their tourism facility when they arrive in South Africa. Alternatively, they will visit the Mpumalanga Heritage Site, where the crafts and arts are made and produced, and then we will ship their goods to wherever they come from as an international tourist specifically. And so very much looking to plug these projects into the tourism value chain so that we can create scale and we can create growth and impact the number of jobs and households that are developed through this process. The jobs that are being created is not only for beaders, but packaging, distribution, sales, social media, marketing specialists to build the brand globally, linked to tourism and South African culture, and jobs in the value chain. So ultimately, the production of those textiles and the manufacture locally of those beads using recycled or crushed items, which is an important part of the sustainability metric in our diversity quadrant. We're looking to create a community-owned business that ultimately will create generational wealth and something that generations of Ndebele families will participate in through this initiative, and be able to proudly say that Ndebele people and their culture and heritage is no longer outsourced to somebody else. And the idea being that we will look to, with the King's permission and his blessing, we will look to expand and grow these sites across the Mpumalanga region in order to support more clusters of family and tourism hotspots that are aligned to where our tourism facilities are in South Africa. So that's a project. It's been a couple of years in the making to get the various approvals. What we realize in community work is nothing happens fast, but certainly we're making rapid progress, and most importantly, it very much follows a shared value approach. We're very, very much advocates for trying to get communities and each of us as entrepreneurs in South Africa to remember something. Each one of us is reliant on the customers who buy our products, but we each buy product from other people in the South African market. And if SMMEs can buy from other SMMEs, and if consumers can choose to buy South African products, and if each of us can look what happens around us, whether it's waste, whether it's water leaks, whether it is seeing that we need to support our local food establishments in our own environment, whether it's giving our own neighbor who set up their own small business as much support as we can, it really does rely on each of us to shift our mindsets from always thinking that outside of our environment is better, and rather adopting a proudly South African and shared value approach in the way in which we do business. Because each of us has the opportunity and the privilege to be able to support at least one other in helping their businesses to grow and thrive. Thank you. Just as a last slide, in summary, in our experience, where there's shared value, there is sustainability. You cannot develop community solutions around boardroom tables. As entrepreneurs ourselves, and very committed to the entrepreneurship agenda in South Africa, and very proudly South African, as a collective team, we know that we've got to be in the community, with the community, and for the community in order for solutions to work. And most importantly, to restore dignity to the people that we intend to support and help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dion, for that. I have, I think, more questions for you than comments. Just based on the work that you are doing and have been doing, your organization has been doing for the past 28 years. But just one or two things that I did pick up before I get to the questions a bit later is, research is important in changing perspectives, especially in township businesses. And I picked that up when you were talking about the food safety issues earlier on, in terms of people didn't trust that spaza shops were actually selling reliable and food that was not contaminated. And the other point that I had is nothing happens fast, especially in these communities. But when it does happen, it makes all the work worthwhile. Support our local businesses, invest in our local businesses. And I think that will then change people's mindset, that if your next door neighbor is buying from someone around here, you will also think, oh, okay, then it's okay for me to actually support them and buy there too. Where there's shared value, there is sustainability, and be in the community. You spoke a lot about, community, the traditional leaders, and we know that in a lot of these areas, what the traditional leaders say is taken, as the rule. So it's a good thing that your organization actually takes that into consideration when you go into those communities. Thank you. I will ask my questions during the Q&A session. I would now like to invite Tammy Letebele, sorry, Tammy. He is the founder of Soweto Book Cafe. And Tammy's topic is building belonging, how culture, storytelling, and safe spaces create loyal communities. Tammy, over to you.
Thank you, Anele, and thank you, Proudly SA, for the opportunity to address this webinar. I think the speakers that spoke before, they did an amazing job. They are doing an amazing job. I think South Africans are amazing people. You know, we are very resilient. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm Chamima Zibugo, aka the Doyen of Soweto. So Litebele is my maternal surname, but I like it also. But yeah, I'm Chamima Zibugo, the founder and director of Soweto Book Cafe. I founded Soweto Book Cafe in 2018 here at my home in Zondi, Soweto. So how I started with my own books. I had about 12 books. We had an empty room here at home. And then I wanted to start a bookstore. I was unemployed, looking to make money from myself. And as a social entrepreneur, to bring a solution to the community. So I spread the idea to my friends locally in the northern suburbs and overseas. And then my friends liked the idea and the initiative. They started supporting me, sending me books, shelves. So Soweto Book Cafe has been growing slowly but surely. And then while in that process of being a bookstore, the community insisted that I turn the space into a library since we don't have any libraries around. So that's my journey. So I accepted the community's request. The space is now basically a bookstore and a library. So it's a very unique space. I've never seen a bookstore and a library in one space. So I think it's a genius invention that is responding to the needs of the people of Soweto as only. So to give a little background about myself, I was born and bred here as Zondi in Soweto in the mid-80s. I was fortunate to attend multiracial schools. In my school, we had a library. So I was familiar with libraries, books. I think that's my love of books developed. Fast forward around the year 2000, I went to live in the city. I lived in Yeoville, Observatory, and then in the northern suburbs. So in the city, I was surprised because I met a lot of artists, entrepreneurs, intellectuals, and readers and authors. And then fast forward, I relocated to Soweto around 2013. When I came back home, there are no libraries, bookstores, nothing. Like it was dry. And I'm a reader myself. I love books. So that's when I had the idea of starting the bookstore, which eventually turned into a library for the community. So I'm constantly responding to the needs of the community and my needs also. So I want to uplift my community as much as I'm growing myself and I'm being uplifted. So this journey has been very, I can't say much pleasant, but I've enjoyed it. But it's tough because most of the time I work alone. I'm a teacher, I'm a librarian, I teach the children chess, and I do many things. I work with authors. So the journey has been quite interesting for me. So let me stick to the topic. A community isn't just a group of people. It's a group of people who share a story. Defining belonging, move beyond inclusion. Inclusion is being invited to the room. Belonging is feeling safe enough to speak, disagree, and grow. So in this context, Soweto Book Cafe, our space is a safe space for the community because we accept everyone. We don't judge, and then we are not a sort of a mock capitalist space. So people can come to the space for reading books, just to see the space and to interact with other visitors. So we don't charge like everyone that comes in here. We don't just want money from them. We see how we can assist them, and if we are able to make money while assisting the community, it's even better for us. And then last year we won an award as a Gauteng Best Bookstore from Yoko and 702. So that has been a milestone for us. Yeah, so we are continuing with our work. As I've said, my challenge is I work alone most of the time. I do get assistance from friends and so forth, but I'm alone. There's a demand for books in Soweto and in other communities. There's a demand for spaces like this. Unfortunately, I can't upscale now because of limited resources, both human and financial. But yeah, I think there's a potential. We even attract tourists. So I also get tourists from overseas, students from universities. I'm expecting students from Switzerland in the next month or so. So Soweto Book Cafe, it's a brand. It has grown, it has potential, and it brings value to the community and the country. And that's my intention. I would love to continue contributing to building the country. And I feel that South Africa is it's a new democracy. 30 years is, some might say it's long, but we need to be patient with ourselves and have confidence and pride in ourselves, you know, and build this beautiful country of ours, all of us collectively. And we need to bring our communities with us. We cannot just develop and leave our communities behind. As entrepreneurs, as social entrepreneurs, as creatives, as artists, as business people, we need to have models that accommodate our communities as well. We shouldn't be just profit driven. So yes, the community appreciate the space. I have lots of children coming here after school to do their homeworks, to see the library, to see books, interact with books. I also have adults. I was surprised to find out there are grandmothers and grandfathers in the communities and uncles that love to read, but they don't have access to books. Books can be very expensive. So they are very happy that I've created this space for them that they can come and learn books, borrow books, and have books in their house, in their homes. And then there's this uncle who told me that he likes books because when he reads books, he doesn't have to drink a lot. So I think it's important for us to have books in our community. They contribute to the overall development of our community, social development, economic development. As I've said, I bring guests to the community, people from overseas, people from the north. When they are here in Soweto, they spend money around businesses here. So it's not only my space that is making money. Also, the community is also benefiting from the guests. So I think there's a lot we can do to uplift our communities. And yes, stories. We do have storytellings. We have book clubs. I also do book fairs. So people like to come to those occasions and meet people and meet other fellow readers and be inspired. I also work with authors. I'm an editor, so also I work with authors, local authors. I launch their books. I help them in the whole process, the industry. So yes, I think there is an untapped market also in terms of books, authors, and so forth. There's a demand for South African books, stories. When I get guests from overseas, tourists, they want to buy books by local authors. They want our stories. They want to hear our stories, both our challenges and our successes. So there's a potential. So I think Soweto Book Cafe, our intention is to contribute to the country and to make South Africa a beautiful place and a healthy place to live in, you know. So that's who we are in essence. So despite the challenges, we are still growing, moving forward. My main challenge is that I get behind on my admin because I'm alone. So I struggle. I mean, for example, I'm the cleaner of the place, I'm the CEO, I'm the secretary. So I end up doing all those roles alone, and being a teacher also. So it sort of it takes a lot from me. And I'm also here every day. So being an entrepreneur in your community is very important, because the community, they come to you anytime, and they expect you to be at their level and understand their needs and solve their problems if you're able to. So the community relies on this space a lot. And for me, even in their basic admin, doing their basic admin, registration in universities and so forth. So we are like a resource center, a hub, you name it. And the other challenges that I'm facing, most libraries, it's either they are closed in the community or they are non-functional. And those that are working or are in operation, they are not open on weekends. So you'd find students, teachers, they need a space with a table and a desk, a quiet space to read, write, do their assignments. And those spaces, they are closed, and I don't understand why. So I'm just consistently responding to the needs of the community, trying to assist wherever I can. So it's a challenge, but the people in this panel, I can say they inspire me to continue and move forward and do what I do. So yes, I'm willing. I'm always willing to collaborate with other community organizations and other individuals also, just to make this place a success. So yes, Soweto Cafe, we are a bookstore, as I've said, we're a library, we're proudly South African brand, proudly Soweto brand. We've made international headlines, we've been covered by The Guardian, we've been covered by France 24, we've made headlines. So the brand is known, the brand has value, and it will continue bringing value to the community. Our goal, I would say, is to expand. If we can have spaces like Soweto Book Cafe in all our townships and rural areas, I assure you this country will be a better place, because as most of us know, the country is experiencing low literacy. Most people and children, they can't read, or they struggle when reading, even in their own mother tongue. So I teach English lessons, isiZulu lessons, so I'm always there to assist those challenges in terms of language and literacy. So I think as a country, the biggest challenge we are facing is the literacy problem. If we can solve that problem, most of our problems will be solved. Health issues, social issues, social ills, all of those problems, I link them to the problems of literacy and not having enough books in our communities and libraries. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to present myself. I'll be open to questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for that. Absolutely love your business and your business idea. And as you were speaking, I'm a big reader, so I was like, oh, this is so great. Some things that I just took from what you were saying is turn your passion into a business, which is what you did. Take stock of your community's needs and answer to them, which is what you also did in terms of they wanted the books and you were able to provide that. And your personal needs could be the community's needs. And I think for you, it was you are in the community, so you could see what is it that is missing and what is it that is a need for you, which then you saw that it's a need for other people. Be patient in building our businesses and our country. As entrepreneurs, we need to bring our communities along the business journey in order for us to succeed. Books contribute to the overall development of the community, and there is a demand and potential for South African books. As you were speaking and you were telling us about some of the challenges that you are faced with, in my mind, I'm like, this is so perfect that we have Sviso and we have Dion on the panel, who I think from what they shared in terms of Brand Township and Dion with her Youth Connect, is maybe there could be a collaboration, someone who can help you with the admin, like you said, with maybe the financial or non-financial and human resource challenges that you could face. So I think there's a nice collaboration that can come from today's panel. We're going to open up for questions, and I would like to start off with asking the questions, and I will go to Sviso. Please let me know if Sviso is still on the line with us. So I'll have two questions to ask per speaker.
Still on the line.
All right. I'll first ask two questions per speaker just to give you enough time to answer and also to see if any of our guests who have joined us have questions. If not, cool. I will then ask follow-on questions. So let me see. For Sviso, the questions that I had were, the first one is, what should an upcoming township entrepreneur do to gain traction and become a big player in the township economy? You spoke, about the bigger names that a lot of us know, but as someone who is working within the community, if someone who wants to start a business in a township, what would you say they need to do in order to gain the traction? And the other question is, maybe which also links to that, is how sustainable are township businesses? Maybe also not using reference to the ones that use other businesses that you've seen that have actually had longevity. How sustainable is it for a business? What are the sustainable rates for township businesses? I'll give you those two questions for now.
All right. No, thanks, Anela, for that. I think on your first questions, when you ask about, we're speaking about the guys that are now have grown their brand. And I think like any other business, they've started, in relation to your question, they started also without really having that popularity, and also with the intention of just solving the immediate problem. And I think if we can start thinking about them in such a way, I think the same principles also apply to any other business, where you have to start small, but most importantly, you need to build strong community. And when I speak about strong community, I'm not really speaking about the immediate community which your business operate in terms of the environment, but a strong network of people that you had invested in, begin to be an active member of community initiatives and activities, whether it's you supporting or you participating or you being visible in weekend, games, soccer games and soccer tournaments, for example, or you becoming really vocal in supporting, our communities with initial problems or community problems that are related to, anything that is attached to non-delivery of services. But, and also being a member of Community Stokvel, a community of network of people that are currently doing, interesting activities within township. And also learn to be supportive, be a supporter of other businesses and be visible in participating, in supporting and being intentional about supporting businesses. Because in that way, you are gaining support, you are bringing support in. And I think, like Tammy has said, he started with his immediate friends and family. And that is your immediate community that you start with. You begin to expand from them, and communities, everything is interlinked. And by you beginning to be quite active, you'll be able to achieve that success that you need. And then when it comes to sustainability, I think there is a level of sustainability with enterprises that are operating in the township. I mean, most of them, as much as they haven't scaled that much, they have been able to sustain their operation for the longest time, and they've built loyalty over time. They've actually become the go-to place. And also people are married to a persona that drives that businesses. And hence sometimes when we see, businesses beginning to doing in the township is because probably there was never a proper succession plan. And even probably the kids might not actually be interested in taking the business forward. And that basically is the main barrier that impact, businesses in the township for them to become sustainable. It is just a matter of a proper and a thorough thought through succession plan, and also getting, the family and the kids being involved from the youngest age. And having them to be familiar with the enterprise that you are operating as an entrepreneur in the township. And those that have been doing that, we have seen a success out of that, where there is business continuity and there is sustainability. And also, I think sustainability comes with formalizing some of the processes and systems, because data does give you insight on how to better operationalize your business. And those touch points are quite important to drive sustainability more than anything else. And also future-proofing your business. I mean, if we are looking at, the issues that we are having in the townships around, water shedding, there's no longer load shedding now. It's called electricity. I forgot what's the name that they are currently using, where they are actually switching off various box at certain times over weekends or during the week. And we are now seeing, the water shedding happening. So usage of such resources responsibly is quite very much important. And also, government, as part of their support mechanism, which they've done in household, and I think they will do in businesses, trying to subsidize these businesses with solar panel installations, with assisting them with JoJo tanks and any other support that they might require. And that basically should form part and parcel of packages that they offer to small businesses by the SIFDAs of this world and the SIFAs of this world, where if we have to drive sustainability, we need to think of future proofing. And if we have to drive sustainability, we need to run the right trainings that talks about succession planning. How does that look like? And if that come into place, we will be able to address some of the questions that you have raised, Anele. I hope that answers it.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Can I please move on to Dion to ask her questions? Thank you, Swiso. So, Dion, the questions that I had for you, I also have a few, but I think you spoke about how spaza shop owners can come together and maybe work together. And I think that was you were also making a distinction between funding and financing. And I wanted to ask, we know there's a lot of competition just amongst businesses and mostly in townships. So how would you, maybe you guys have done this in your consultancy, how would you navigate the coming together of spaza shop owners, taking into consideration that business owners are generally competitive and more so in the township? And then the other question that I wanted to ask is, in terms of municipalities, how is the engagement and involvement with municipalities in carrying out your work and your campaigns? I did mention earlier on in terms of the traditional leaders that you do work with, but they are also under local municipalities. And we do know a lot of businesses always have this: government is not supportive, municipalities are not supportive. How has it been working with these municipalities in the campaigns and the research and the work that your organization has done. Thank you.
Thanks, Anele. I think that to start to your first point on how do retailers, any retailer, whether it's a food establishment or another retailer, collaborate around cost. Siaka rolled out a project which up to COVID for about 5 years. What we did was we registered, we set up a community-owned structure, and we registered as a wholesaler with one of the biggest FMCG companies in South Africa. And so as a wholesaler, you're able to buy the product at significantly cheaper. In this instance, the items that we were buying were hygiene items like Dettol, cleaning items, etc., which every household needs and has to use. We did our research first and realized that the counterfeit goods that were being sold, and it was counterfeit, so same label, looks exactly the same, but not manufactured by the same company. Those items were around 10 Rand a basket cheaper than what the legitimate and real items were. So we registered a project called Project Hope. We registered as a wholesaler with the FMCG company. We purchased from the FMCG company. The goods were delivered to a central point, which we managed, and then we distributed it to the various townships. And that allowed us to provide the product and stock to these, what we called Hopepreneurs, because it was Project Hope. And the Hopepreneurs were unemployed single moms living in townships. And they received the product 30% cheaper than what it retailed for at Checkers or Pick n Pay. And so they were able to then do one of two things. They could either sell it at the same price as Checkers or Pick n Pay and keep the 30%, or they could sell it at 10% cheaper, although there is a recommended retail price. So you need your FMCG market kind of approval to do that. And what this did was it allowed unemployed moms that were living on SASSA grants at the time to earn on average about 3,600 Rand a month. The ones who shot the lights out, who then decided that they were going to provide personalized services. So some of them delivered it door to door to people's houses and really went beyond where the basic service was. And those women were earning for the same product and same basket of goods on average around 13,600 Rand a month. So the reality is this, is that in those margins sat the power of actually being able to be sustainable and to earn a living out of it. Those that earned a basic living versus those that shot the lights out and earned a much better rate, and this goes back to 2006 or so, was the difference between how they chose to market the product and what value-added services and how hard they were prepared to work. I don't think we should compete by trying to take each other out. It's more about competing around what is our value proposition to our customers. And I think that's where we need to change the mindset. But if we can buy in bulk and we can negotiate those discounts in bulk, then we've got the ability to start that negotiation as to differentiating ourselves on service, on special offers, on value-added services, etc., which are the normal business differentiations, as opposed to differentiating each other on trying to take each other out of the market. I think that's the answer to the first question. The last one was, how did we find it engaging with municipalities and traditional authorities? When the Spaza Connect project rolled out, we took it to all of the municipalities. I can honestly say that at the end of the day, municipalities, like any other organization, is run by people. So the forward-thinking, proactive municipal managers engaged fully and provided us access to this incredible collaborative model. And we met with the ward councillors up front and engaged around who we were. We are very big on communication, and so we were able to mobilize quite quickly. The less forward-thinking individuals, we had lower response. And so usually what we found when we're working with the king or traditional leader, that we approach him first out of respect for his role. And once we are working with him, then we approach the municipality. And the municipality, providing we have his blessing, will generally come along. But fundamentally, working with municipalities is like working with you or I. At the end of the day, organizations, including government organizations, are run by people. The more proactive and forward-thinking municipalities are like that, not because of any political party or different government agenda, but because of the individuals that are at the helm in those organizations. And patience is a beautiful virtue that's always required.
Thank you for that. And I love it, that it's people who are running these municipalities. So we actually need to also change their mindset and get the right people who want to actually change the environment into those offices. Before I ask Tammy his question, I'm going to get Janine from Proudly South African to come through. She is on a bit of a tight schedule. There is a summit that Proudly South African is hosting this week. So I know she also just will need to also dash into the planning of that. But Janine is just going to share with us in terms of, as I mentioned before we started, who Proudly South African is, what the mandate is, how you can become a member. And then after that, Tammy, I'll ask you your question, and we will see if we have questions from our other guests as well. Janine, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anele, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on our webinar today. Anele, I did miss a little bit of the information you had in your opening address when you introduced me, so apologies, but I do hope that I'll be able to when I do my presentation, have met all the expectations that you've given. So thank you, but thank you always for the intro. Colleagues, I'm gonna share my screen with you now. And there we go. Thank you. I'm just gonna put in presentation mode, and I look forward to taking you through Proud SA's mandate and the work that we do, and also just to showcase that a lot of our stakeholders cross-cuts many spheres of society, and the work that we do is always in the best interest of all who live in the country in order to promote job creation and the growth of our economy. My role, Proud SA, is to look after our stakeholders and also then to come up with localization strategies. And this really touches base on what the public sector is doing, what the private sector is doing, and then legal is also under my area of responsibility. So the mandate of Proud SA is to lobby for the support of locally made products, local service providers, through procurement practices, and we work with the public sector, the private sector, and then we appeal to the consumer to be educated about looking out for the Proudly South African logo. If it's not present on the product, then to look out for Made in SA. So that really is in essence what we stand for. And we're a not-for-profit company, but we do have all the social partners on our board, as well as social partners from NEDLAC on our board. So we are well represented as an organization. We really do hold all spheres of society's interest at heart when we do operate. A big part of the campaign is about education, predominantly around localization. Our tagline is "Be Proudly South African, buy local to create jobs," and that really has been the ethos or the call to action, if you will, for our own company, and that's now come to be what we use now when we do work with corporates and the public sector, because that resonates with them. I know with our new campaign or new messaging, loved here, made here, it appeals to the consumer, and it just puts a beautiful identity to what is made locally, and really it's to spur and to really count on people to really understand where products that are made here come from. The ideas are homegrown ideas, and really it just hits home when you hear that phrase. So a lot of the work that we do is around education of the importance of localization. I'm sure you're already the converted, so I'm preaching to the converted today, but it's to retain, create jobs. It looks at skills development, empowerment, economic development, improved living standards, increase the country's GDP, and infrastructure development. If you can imagine, if you have a job, your procurement decisions are quite different. if you don't have any money to spend. So you can imagine that it is important to see what we can do in order to promote job creation in the country. Our 4 key focus areas, as I'd mentioned before, is we appeal to the public sector, private sector, as well as the consumer to buy local, but also very importantly is to promote the accessibility of locally made products. And it's all good and well to say buy local, but if you don't know where to find the local equivalents, it makes the decision difficult. As you can imagine with jobs, we are all very busy in our day-to-day jobs, so we really want to make that choice easy on the one who's buying. And that's what we put in place, and I'll take you through what that all entails. So before we look at what it is that we do in order to promote the accessibility of locally made products and services, it's important for you to understand that we are a membership-based organization, because any company that comes on board as a member has to abide by a code of conduct, if you will. And it's important that we do vet our company's products according to local content provisions that we have in place, or if it's a services business, that we also look and see where they are procuring from, hopefully, and that's what we advocate, that they source from other local manufacturers. So we look at local content, we look at quality. So if you look at our logo, it's got a big green tick in the middle, and that stands for the mark of quality. So we really look at whatever industry you're in. If you're producing for a hospital, you'd need a SAHPRA license. If you are a caterer, you might need a food acceptability certificate. So we really take it on an industry by industry basis in terms of measuring quality, but really it's determined by the regulator. Then we also check to see if you abide by fair labor practices. We don't want to be associated with any sweatshops. So it's important that the companies that join us abide by at least the basic conditions of Employment Act, for instance. And then we also check to see if you as a business, when you operate, are you taking care of the environment, the community around you, not harming anybody. So we also check to see what the environmental standards are of every company that does come on board as a member. So where do we sit in the business eco support system, or the business support ecosystem rather? And we are all about promoting access to markets for our member companies. We do have agencies and entities, as well as other organizations that we work with that assist with information sharing, tax and statutory obligations, that they might be able to help you with productivity, testing, compliance, etc., IP, trademarks. So we like to put everybody in touch with one another, but for us, we stick to our mandate, which is promoting market access for our member companies. And that really fits hand in hand with the work that we do around education. So when we say it's important to support local, we then offer a membership base for any procuring entity, then to have the choice of local companies to support. So in terms of the work that we do, and these are all benefits for members, by the way, we work with the private sector. So we're asking them, will you commit to localization? So it could be in any way or format. So if they commit to localization, the idea behind that is that they then put it in their policies, even in KPIs of their colleagues. If you think about the retailers, they should have a provision that allows them that they have to source local. So we're busy working on that, which is really, really exciting. And a lot of them are procuring, looking at specific localities, which is great. So what we ask from the big corporates is to introduce procurement practices that will favor either local manufacturers of raw material or components, or to look at what their supply chain is made up of. Perhaps there could be an easy import replacement exercise they could do to favor local manufacturers. For retailers, increase your shelf space. Look at where the white label products are coming from. Are they coming from abroad, or can we look at a local equivalent, for instance? And then if you have an ESD program, what are you doing in order to just spread the messaging, bring companies on board as members, and allow for them to then also give back and look to just to keep the spend within the borders and put local content provisions in any agreement that you might have with them. And we must say we're working with the private sector, and we've garnered over 75, which I think is actually 95 localization commitments. And the spend each year is about 4 to 6 billion rand spend. And what we do is we then introduce these companies to our membership base via the market access platform. And we're quite excited. We're going over to we've spruced up the system a bit. So we're really, really excited. All of our members are listed on the market access platform. And then we have about 230 buyers that are on the system already. So we are looking to make this the platform of choice. So we are visiting a lot more corporates, getting their buy-in for them to list on the system as a buyer. So it is a matchmaking, if you will, that happens throughout the year, not event specific, which is great. So it's a matchmaking, a Tinder matchmaking platform, I've been told, because you do list your, as a member company, you tell us who you are, what you do, where you operate from, how big the business is. And then you also can look at your scorecard and also give us a sense of what the makeup or what the equity is of the business, because a lot of corporates do have their own preferential procurement targets. It could be to buy from women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, youth-owned businesses. So we do give the corporates a chance to then fulfill their own preferential procurement targets when they do link in with us on the market access platform. Here are some of the areas that we've garnered great success from in terms of obtaining localization commitments. So the idea is to get people talking, get them committed, offer them a membership base, but a system to make that happen. So we are really, we are going all digital here at Proud SA, which is phenomenal. And we really want to see our membership base grow. In terms of then, I'd like to take you through other areas of work that we do. We buy space for our members at exhibitions. We have our Buy Local Summit and Expo. It's taking place next week. Please log onto our website and register as a delegate. If you haven't already done so, it's free to attend. But at that event, we'll have a summit, a conferencing element. So we talk about localization, we uplift and see what other corporates are doing to uplift ESDs and as well as the community, and to see what they are doing in that space. We also allow our members to exhibit. And then we have a matchmaker that comes through to do business matchmaking for our member companies. So we really want our members to grow and really fill their order books. And that's really the idea behind that. We also have an e-commerce strategy. We've linked into various other online stores whereby we have gone to Takealot, we've gone to Macro Marketplace. So a lot of them have listed our members for free. We are announcing something very special with Takealot at the end of March, a very special offer, so that whenever there's an opportunity for companies to benefit from any campaign that we do, we can always show the consumer where to source our members' products from. So Takealot is one such example. Also, to allow you to use the logo as well as the phrase Proudly South African on your product or product description, so that we can really get the conversation going. We also have a local wine expo, third-party expos like Decorex and Delicious Festival, where we've bought space for our members from. The Commitments is one such initiative, as well as matchmaking, as I've mentioned, and the market access platform. And then we have, as Proudly SA, the supreme list of local manufacturers and local service providers. So I really want to encourage you to join the campaign if you have not done so. You're in good company, and really it is for us, we would like to see you flourish and do well. In terms of the work we're doing in the public sector, so our membership CRM system has been is integrating with the CSD. So if you're not yet on the database to do business with government, we can help make that happen for you. We also have a tender monitoring function, also moving over to a new AI system. So it allows our members to have their own dashboards, to put their own keywords in, so that with every, we've linked into over 1,000 websites whereby government posts their tenders. So you can imagine the opportunities that can come from you linking in with government tenders, for instance. So we're trying to make it easy for you, but we're also lobbying. So we extract these tenders. We are privy to know which government departments, whether it is national, provincial, local government, SOEs, etc., if they are including local content stipulations in their their policies. If not, we do go knocking and request that they consider really including that in their supply chain management policies, for instance. And we've also done a lot of work in terms of developing the new regulations in terms of how government is buying. And we've put a big wish list together, done a lot of work in terms of that. And I know somebody whispered in my ear that the regulations should be published, or at least for public comment, come June, July this year. So we really want to see phenomenal changes happening there so that we can really drive localization with our public sector colleagues, which I think they've got immense buying power. And we're working with a lot of metros, we're working with provincial government, and a lot of them have beautiful localization policies that are really making a difference out there. So we want more colleagues in the public sector to localize as much as possible. Work we do in the consumer space, so quite excited to say that we are working on a spaza shop program. I can't mention too much, but we're quite excited to look at how we can provide more market access for our members in spaza shops, make sure that it's digitized and it's really taken care of in terms of food safety, etc. So it's quite an exciting time for us. So that's what's coming. But also we have our online store strategy I'd mentioned. We also have our own online store, which is really exciting. It allows our members, those who are afraid to start their own or might not think that they want to be on the big online stores, they want to start small. It really is a site for everybody. It's called Shop Proudly SA. So I'll talk about that in a bit, but we also, in terms of our consumer education work, we have a very strong PR arm of the business. You must follow us on our socials. I think you'd be very, very pleased to see the work that the team is doing there. But we also have lots of events and webinars that take place, such as today's webinar. But we also then have lots of campaigns and also consumer events that have really garnered some great support over the years, such as the local wine expo, the local fashion police. So look out for when we open for entries later this year, and we'd like you to also consider joining us and entering those competitions that we put out, as well as our January cabbage competitions. So a lot of work we're doing in the consumer space to keep it exciting and to keep the conversation going. These are some of our online store partners that I might have mentioned about the strategy we have in place, but also our own Shop Proudly SA. It's quite exciting to note a lot of our stakeholders are supporting the site. So when I have those conversations with them, they always say it's such wonderful, beautiful South African products on the site with beautiful stories, and that really is the idea. So we are working with the likes of other, getting televisions and fridges made locally on the site. So we are taking this site places. It has a business to consumer capability, but also business to business capability, as well as we are looking at utilizing the site as a tool for exports. So this is very exciting, and also from a B2C and B2B perspective. So please do keep an eye out for announcements, etc. So we are looking forward to expanding on the site and really making it the site of choice whenever there's a trade show, an international trade show, or any other exhibition that Shop Proudly SA will be the site of choice for anybody abroad to buy our members' products. I'm going to leave you now with our ad. I hope my sound is on, but the team will tell me if I need to look at that. Oh, I see there is a note that this video might not play. No, it won't be able to play, but please do look out on our YouTube page. Our video is there, and we look forward to bringing this one back on TV. So please also look out for that. Thank you so much, Anela. Appreciate the opportunity. Oh, one last thing. This is our membership fee structure, very affordable. So please do consider coming on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine, and the Proudly South African team for that breakdown on who Proudly South African is. And all the exciting things that the organization does. We do hope more and more people will join. I am mindful of time, but I need to give an opportunity to Tammy because the other speakers got a chance to get questions asked. And I think my question around for him, two very short questions, Tammy. The first one is, this myth that we hear that Black people don't read, but I think you are debunking that. But maybe if you can, maybe tell us more about, you spoke about you were in Soweto and then you went into the CBD and you came back. Was there a similar need for reading in the CBD as you saw in Soweto? And then the other question is, in terms of what you need as a business owner, as a social entrepreneur, in order for your business to be sustainable, we do have people here who could possibly be of assistance, like you mentioned, the assistance that you need. So what is it that the one or two things that you would need to ensure that Soweto Book Cafe remains open and is sustainable?
Oh, thank you, Anele, and thank you, Janine, also. That was a powerful presentation. I think now, personally, I'm clear about what Brand SA does. So thank you very much, Janine. There's a good question.
South African, Tammy. Proudly South African.
Proudly South African. Oh, sorry, proudly South African. Yes. Yes, no, thank you, proudly South African, Janine, again. That's a good question, Anele. When I was living in the city, in the urban area, the access to books, I mean, there are many libraries, City Library, Yeoville Library, basically every urban, I can't say township, but every urban place, area, there are bookstores and there are libraries. So the reading culture there, it's normal. So here in Soweto, and in other townships, I suspect, people we have like books. People use books just to get on with their life, like pass school. So the culture of reading was not there. So by me being a person and a epitome of a reader, so people they are inspired when they see somebody who reads, who is in the township and who reads a lot of books. And I'm among them. I live with them. They see me, so I become like a role model. And now people don't fear books anymore, or the person that read books. So I'm not like snobbish. I'm able to bring myself down and assist people. So, but the culture is slowly growing, I would say. The myth is being dispelled. Many people are starting to get into books because of spaces like Soweto Book Cafe, whereby we allow them to use our books and even donate books to them if we have to. So the culture is slowly growing. The people are starting to associate with books, and places that have books, they are more prosperous and successful. So yeah, Anele, I think it is growing, and soon the myth will be gone. I've seen an increase in readers myself personally due to this space. Like now I have a lot of readers who come every day, borrow books, buy books. So just by having a space, people that can access books at a reasonable price, because books can be expensive. So I think that has been the barrier. The barrier of reading and access to books has been the costs, and then the unavailability of books, and most of our libraries, unfortunately, they are not that functional. And there are no role models. I could say there were no role models like me who love books, and people can identify with me. I'm one of the community members. I grew up here. They know me since I was a kid. So I think I'm playing my role, and I will continue to do that to get more people to read. Yeah. And then the second question, Anele, which is important also, for Soweto Book Cafe to continue the work that we are doing, we need to be assisted in terms of admin, because I always say that if I can sit and focus on admin, I would never run the space. Like I would never be able to teach and do most of other things that I'm doing here. So if I can be assisted with admin and funding, obviously, we do need funding for operational to keep the space going. And I also would like to employ more, like employ young people or give them stipends, So I'd like to get to employ more young people or to get them to volunteer in the space so that I can teach them workshop them, and also give them stipends. So there's a potential for a place like this. It just needs it needs good collaborations, support, financially, admin wise, and yeah, I think that's very important. If I can be assisted and collaborations, I'm open to collaborating with other organizations and stakeholders. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for your responses. And like I said earlier on, I do get a sense of some collaboration between you and the other two speakers today. We have each other's numbers now outside of this platform, so I hope that you will use each other and that you get the assistance that you need, so that what you're doing with Soweto Book Cafe can be replicated in other townships as well. We've come to the end of our webinar, and I would like to thank Proudly South African for hosting these very important sessions. I always learn. Every time I'm part of the sessions, I learn something new. I meet incredible people, and just to know that they are business owners, they are entrepreneurs who are moving South Africa forward, who are encouraging buying local, trying to eradicate unemployment, poverty, and inequality. So please do keep up the good work. And as Janine says, there is a summit that is coming up. Please check out the Proudly South African website and social media platforms so that you get more information on how you can be part of that summit. The webinar, for those who may have joined late, will be on YouTube. So you can just go back and hear what the speaker said, from Siso to Dion to Tammy, Janine as well, and just get an idea of how you can build community and how you can build belonging and build brands within our townships. Thank you so much. I will see you soon at another webinar. Have a good afternoon and keep working at being proudly South African when growing our South African brands.
Thank you, Anela. Thank you, Proudly.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.